Replica on display at the Technik Museum Speyer in Speyer, Rhineland-Palatinate. Replica of the fuselage section on display at IWM London. 99, 100. Indonesia. Unknown serial number on display at the Dirgantara Mandala Museum in Yogyakarta. 98. Japan. 1493 on display at the Kawagakiko Motor Museum in Fuji, Kawagakiko, Yamanashi. 101. 4168 /4240 /4241 on display at the Yushigan in Kyoto, Tokyo. 102. 4685 on display at Hamamatsu Air Base in Hamamatsu, Shizuoka. 103. 4708 on display at the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Museum in Komaki, Aichi. 104. 31,870 a two-seater on display at the National Museum of Nature and Science in Taito, Tokyo. 105. 62,343 on display at the Chiran Peace Museum for Kamikaze Pilots in Chiran, Kagoshima. 106. 82,729 on display at the Yamato Museum in Kyo, Hiroshima. 107. 91,518 on display at the Kawagakiko Motor Museum. 108. 92,717 on display at the Kawagakiko Motor Museum. 109. Replica on display at Makas Iwakuni in Iwakuni, Yamagachi. 110, 111. 2017 Red Bull Air Race of Chiba, N553TT, A6M on display at Dirgantara Mandala Museum, Indonesia. Replica used as movie prop for 2013 film The Eternal Zero. On display at USA City Peace Museum, USA, Ita Prefecture. 112. New Zealand. 3,835 /3844 on display at the Auckland War Memorial Museum in Auckland, Auckland Region. 113. It was taken to New Zealand from Bougainville in October 1945 on board the ferry Wain, which was being used to repatriate troops. The Zero had been caught on the ground on Bougainville, damaged in bombing during the Bougainville campaign in November 1943. The plane had been hidden by the Japanese, who had restored it with the goal of flying it off the island. The plane was retrieved by ANZAF intelligence officers in September 1945 at the Japanese airfield at Bin in southern Bougainville. 114. United Kingdom. 196 on display at the Imperial War Museum London in London, Greater London. Forward fuselage displayed. 115, 116, 117. 3,685 on display at the Imperial War Museum Duxford in Duxford, Cambridgeshire. 3,685 was salvaged from Teroa Island in 1991 and acquired by the museum in 2000, before being put on display in 2010. Fuselage displayed in unrested condition. 118. United States. 1,303 in storage at the Flying Heritage Collection in Everett, Washington. 119. 3,618 in storage at Fantasy of Flight in Polk City, Florida. 120. 4,043 in storage at Fantasy of Flight. Along with several other Zeros, this aircraft was recovered by the Australian War Memorial Museum in the early 1970s from Rayball in the South Pacific. The markings suggest that it was in service after June 1943, and further investigation suggests that it has cockpit features associated with the Nakajima build Model 52B. If this is correct, it is most likely one of the 123 aircraft lost by the Japanese during the assault of Rabaul. The aircraft was shipped in pieces to the attraction and was eventually made up for display as a crashed aircraft. Much of aircraft is usable for patterns, and some of its parts can be restored to one day make this a basis for a flyable aircraft. 121, 122. 4,340 on display at the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. 123. 4,400 in storage at the Flying Heritage Collection in Everett, Washington. 124. 5,356 /5,451 on display at the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum in Honolulu, Hawaii. This aircraft was formerly flown by the Commemorative Air Force after being restored by Robert D. Mert. 125. 5,357 owned by the Planes of Fame Air Museum in Chino, California. This aircraft, 61 to 120, is the only airworthy example powered with an original Seiki radial engine. 126. 5,450 on display at the National Naval Aviation Museum at Naval Air Station Pensacola in Pensacola, Florida. 127, 128. 23,186 on display at the San Diego Air and Space Museum in San Diego, California. This aircraft is on loan from the National Air and Space Museum. 129, 130. The museum previously had another Zero in its collection, MSN 4323. But it was destroyed in a fire on the 22nd of February 1978. 131. 51,553 on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson AFB in Dayton, Ohio. 132, 133. It was restored by Century Aviation. 134. Replica owned by Warren Pietsch at the Texas Flying Legends Museum in Houston, Texas. This aircraft, known as the Blade Zero, is a reconstruction based on templating original Zero components recovered from the South Pacific. To be considered a restoration and not a reproduction, the builders used a small fraction of parts from the original Zero landing gear in their construction. 135, 136. It was built as an A6M2 Model 21. 137, 138. This aircraft was damaged in a ground accident on the 15th of March, 2016, when a Goodyear FG-1D Corsair taxiing behind it overran the tail of the Zero, with the Corsair's propeller shredding roughly the last third of the Zero's fuselage and its control surfaces. 139, 140. Replica 3,869, owned by the Southern California wing of the Commemorative Air Force in Camarillo, California. This aircraft is an A6M3 that was recovered from Babo Airfield, Indonesia, in 1991. It was partially restored from several A6M3s in Russia, then brought to the United States for restoration. The aircraft was re-registered in 1998 and displayed at the Museum of Flying in Santa Monica, California. It uses a Pratt & Whitney R1830-75 engine. 141, 142. Replica 3852, owned by the Flying Heritage Collection in Everett, Washington. This aircraft was recovered from Babo Airfield and restored first in Russia, then in California, and finally in Washington state before being delivered to the Flying Heritage Collection. 143, 144, it has a PNWENGINE installed. 145. Replica 3858, on display at Feigen Fighters World War II Museum in Granite Falls, Minnesota. Formerly owned by Mazar Hideshitsuka in Kanoya, Kagoshima. Pratt & Whitney R1830 engine. 146, 147, 148. Replica under airworthy rebuild by Legend Flyers in Everett, Washington, 104.
Oh no. So now my computer crashed. It's 10:30. My computer crashed, but that's a few days ago it didn't. So always need the specification. So we have to start again. So I have some Danish video about seaplanes. I need to make the Canada CL 415. But now the heating will come. The sun is already 29. No, the temperature will raise to 32, 33. And that makes me very sleepy. So we have to reboot. Of course my computer cannot cool down when it's 32 in my living room. But I need a few minutes. We need the specifications. I think we cannot finish in 10 minutes because now I need many minutes. The video splits in 7-8 minutes. I need some minutes to make my computer ready. I have to reboot. No, the video splits in 6 minutes, but it cannot do that because I have these debt problems. I cannot empty my credit cards. I have to stop spend money on my credit cards. So my debt, my payments to my credit card need to drop a bit every month. So, and I have no saving left. Even I had $1,000 in my saving we cannot use. So people like explain it many times. I don't like to explain it every time. I have some big debt problems. I need to have a small saving in my bank account so I have 1 month's payment to my apartment so I'm not getting homeless. If my pension stops, I need to have can pay my rent 1 month. That's much more important than a gamer computer. That should not be homeless. So I need a few minutes. I need a few minutes to make my computer ready. let's see if I can open everything again. But the heating will come now because the sun is shining. So the heating will raise to like 33, 32, 33 very soon. Yes, then can press here, open again. And the video will split because it was just, but this is how it is. Need a few more minutes. So this will be 5 parts. Yes, I had too much open. Yes, here we have it. Yes, I like to read all this, but I have to use my other camcorder because this camcorder takes yes, so let's try and find it again. I'm sorry for this, but I cannot do anything about it because I have this depth problem. But I was close to finish. It's got through like there. We have to read from the top again. But now the auto reading work again, I think.
51,553 on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson AFB in Dayton, Ohio. 132, 133. It was restored by Century Aviation.